mark with Recliner Sports.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, there it is, boys and girls. It's official. The Canadiens are in the playoffs. I'm not sure how many of you expected it to happen. I had my doubts at times, but it finally happened. There it is, boys and girls. There it is. Montreal Canadiens 4. Carolina Hurricanes 2. And Montreal will be playing more hockey. We will get to see this team play at least 4 more times, guys. We will get to see the Canadiens and the Washington Capitals in the first round of the playoffs. Luciano, this is a huge game. Let's go Habs. That probably was written a while ago. It was definitely a huge game, Luciano, and the Habs did pull it off. Guli, Suzuki, Slav, and Monty, 3 for 4. 3 for 4, Billy D. 3 for 4. I suspect everyone is going to be over watching Coaches Live, but I'm doing it anyway, guys. So we're going to have more fun here than they're having over there anyway. So let's get this going here, guys. What do you think of the game? I want to talk to you guys tonight. I don't want to do all the talking. I want you guys to tell me what you thought about that game tonight. The Canadiens, again, with a 4-2 win over a I don't know what to call it, but certainly the Hurricanes rested a number of their top players tonight. I don't think that the Montreal Canadiens got the full effect of the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. Obviously, Aho out of the lineup, Jarvis out of the lineup, Slavin out of the lineup. They played their backup goaltender, so there was a bit of an opportunity given to them tonight, and they obviously were able to take advantage of it. It was a game that they, I guess, technically didn't have to win, but certainly they wanted to win, and they didn't want to leave the game or their playoff chances in the hands of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Right, Columbus plays the Islanders tomorrow night, and if the Canadiens had failed to win tonight, they would have put their fate in the hands of Columbus. And if Columbus had managed a regulation win against the Islanders, that would have meant that the Canadiens would have been eliminated. Billy D wasn't pretty, but got the result. I do agree with that assessment completely. Guli was phenomenal. Yeah, he scored 2 goals. We haven't seen that from him before. We haven't seen that from any defenseman really this year for the Canadiens. I don't think any defenseman has scored 2 goals in one game this year for Montreal. I don't believe. Maybe Matheson. I don't think he has, though. So I agree with both of you, Tristan and Billy D. To me, it was obviously the only thing that really counted tonight was getting the win. So beyond that, I'm not going to really complain about anything. But they do have to play better hockey if they have any chance of doing anything when it comes playoff time. If they have any chance whatsoever. I know everyone's talking about how they believe that Montreal has the possibility to upset Washington, and that Washington may be ripe for an upset. But if the Canadiens play the way they've played in their last 5 or 6 games, that's not going to be very likely. That's not going to be So, but again, they won, and I'm not going to get into I'm not going to get into any of that other stuff. I mean, it's like I said, for me tonight, the game, they looked a little bit nervous. They looked like the occasion was one that was a bit. They were in over their head a little bit tonight, but again, they pulled it off, right? And I think that this is a team that has shown that when they come off of a break, they play well. This will be another break for them, right? They came off the Four Nations break, they did well. They came off the Christmas break, they did well. So we'll see how they do. They need to improve their defensive zone coverage. But again, I think that comes with nerves, right? Like when they're when they're comfortable and they're confident and they're playing their game, they're fine. It's when they start to grip their stick too tight and they get, inside their own heads a little bit, that things get a little bit squirrely sometimes. And that's kind of what we're witnessing, or what we witnessed tonight, I think, a little bit, especially in the second period, and maybe later in the first period, where they had a ton of chances to score, but they just couldn't convert, because I think they were, like I said, they were gripping their sticks pretty tight, and they just didn't have the hands, and they just weren't comfortable. They weren't confident. They weren't comfortable, and they struggled. So Tony B, Slav, Monty, Gooley, and Heineman for the A team. You are 2 for 4, Tony B. Am I surprised my team made it? I'm not surprised. If you would have asked me at the beginning of the year whether I thought they had a chance, I would have said yes, they do have a chance. In fact, I did say that. If you would have asked me, anywhere sort of through, the end of October and into November, I would have said very highly unlikely. And then if you would have asked me at the end of January, I would have said they had a decent chance of making it again. So it's been a bit of an up and down that way. I didn't expect them to make the playoffs, in that I didn't really feel like they needed to make the playoffs in order for this season to be a success. I think this season has been a success regardless. So anything they do at this point, moving on, is just a bonus. They didn't need to make the playoffs. They've already improved their point total in the standings significantly this year. They've improved their goal differential by about 25 or 30. So they've done all these things. Individual players have gotten better. Slavkovsky has probably been a little bit better than he was last year. Again, I think he still needs work to sort of. It'd be nice to get an entire, like both of the last 2 years, he had different first half versus second half. Suzuki's better this year. Caulfield's better this year. Gooley's better this year. Hudson is an addition to the team. So, in that sense, I think the team, it's been a success for this team, regardless of whether they made the playoffs. Slav had a great game tonight. Again, I know that everybody, he's I don't know everybody's favorite whipping boy, but a lot of people, he's their favorite whipping boy. There's a lot of people out there that like to take it out on him when, when he doesn't have his best games, or when they perceive him to have not had a bad game or a great game. But he's a really good hockey player. They are very young, Smitty. Right? They're young. They're rebuilding. It's early on in the rebuild. They're probably ahead of schedule as far as the rebuild is concerned. They're certainly doing things at this stage of the rebuild that I don't know that they would have been expected to do. It's still quite early on in the rebuild, and the rebuild's not over. The rebuild still has a long way to go. This team still has a long way to go. Making the playoffs isn't the goal of the rebuild. Winning the Stanley Cup is. Becoming a perennial contender is the goal of the rebuild, and so there's still a ways to go. I'm very disappointed with Vancouver this season. Very sad to see a lot of injuries and drama stuff happened and players not playing properly. Do you think it's players' fault or Rick Tocchet, the coach? I think there's probably a fair amount of blame to go around in Vancouver. Obviously a lot of it had to do with internal bickering amongst the players, which is always unfortunate. But again, the coach probably has some sort of a role in controlling that. The captains have a certain role in controlling that. But on the other hand, if you've got, two guys that want to be assholes badly enough, it's pretty hard to stop that. As a team, and as a coach and a player, a captain, you kind of have to, try and contain that to those two guys. And unfortunately, it looks like it's spread to the rest of the team. So again, I'm not going to say it's Tocchett's fault. I'm not going to say it's the leadership's fault. It's more likely, the fault falls on the players, but Pedersen and JT Miller, I guess, would be the main guys. But it's too bad, because they've kind of derailed a team that was certainly heading in the right direction, and now it looks like they've at least taken a step backwards, and you hope that that's all it is, and that it's not more than that. They need a Larry Robinson as defensive coach. Okay. I don't really see that, but we'll take a shot at this. Slavkovsky, Gouli, Newhook, and Laine. No. You are 2 for 4, Big Tuna. You are 2 for 4. But if you want to see the graphic for the A team, you have to come over to the YT channel and check it out over here. Come on over and check it out. He did win Jack Adams, but I don't know. Maybe he is not the right coach. Our AHL coach made the team go into playoffs and was on 16-game winning streak with half of a team, so maybe we should give our AHL coach a try. Yeah, I'm not sure I would give up on Rick Tocchet right now. I'm not sure I would give up on him. Again, I think that everybody has to share some of the blame for what happened this year, but I don't know that Tocchet has done anything or the blame that you attribute to Tocchet for that would, warrant him losing his job. I think Pettersson had injuries and was playing through it and lack of confidence. Yeah, again, I don't know the details of what happened there. All I know is that, from what I've heard and what I understand, there was a rift between JT Miller and Elias Pettersson, and that some people were on Miller's side and some people were on Pettersson's side, and the situation became so untenable that, they had to let one of them go. And, the turmoil that it created essentially, kneecapped the team, amongst other things. I mean, they had injuries and they had other issues that they had to deal with as well that were beyond that. But, it certainly, the atmosphere within the dressing room certainly did not help at all. So they made it, Marination. They made it. If Rick Tocchet gets released, I see him going to Philadelphia. Yeah, I don't know that Rick Tocchet's the right guy for the job in Philadelphia, but, Philadelphia needs a new coach. And if they don't re-sign him, then that's very possible. It's very possible. All right, gang, if you're over here on YT, feel free to fire away with the questions, guys. I see there's 7 people watching. We've got 2 thumbs up so far. We're looking for subscribers. We're looking for you guys to hit the thumbs up if you're enjoying the show. If you're watching in a replay, same thing. We're trying to grow the community here, so the more people that subscribe, the better. So if you haven't already done so, then hit that little subscribe button that's right down here below the screen. You can hit the notification bell. You can hit the thumbs up, all that good stuff. If you're watching in a replay, you can do the same. If you're over on TikTok, feel free to ask your questions on TikTok. But if you really want to enjoy the show, you are best off to come and join us on YT. All you do is open up your YT app and go to that address right there, that channel. You punch that into the search bar, and you'll find your way here really, really quickly. I don't believe Rick is done yet in Vancouver. I would tend to agree with that, Lucky Town. I would agree with that, Derek. I think that's Derek. Come on over and join us on YT, Derek. Do I think Torts was out of his place? Apparently he put hands on York in the locker room and was very mean to players and people. I haven't heard that he put hands on York. It wouldn't surprise me. But the answer to your first question is yes, he was completely out of his element. He had no business coaching that team. He didn't belong there. I don't think he belongs coaching in the NHL at all. I don't think he has the right coaching style or personality to coach in the NHL anymore. And he certainly doesn't have the coaching style and personality to be coaching young kids, right? A developing team, a rebuilding team. He's not that kind of coach. And I think he was completely out of his element there. And I thought it was, I said it at the time. I said it the day they hired him, that it was a crazy call to hire him as a coach of a young rebuilding team like that. But yeah, I'm not sure about the other stuff about, him putting hands on York and stuff like that. I do know what he's like as a coach. I do know that he, spoke negatively about a number of players publicly to the media. I know that he made some really strange decisions with respect to benching guys. I know that he coaches by, through fear. He coaches by, making people afraid to make mistakes, and I don't think that that's the right avenue if you want to get success out of young hockey players. Thanks, John Saunders. I appreciate it, and welcome back. I haven't seen you in a while, but anybody over on TikTok, guys, if you want to enjoy the show, if you want to get the full-fledged feeling of the show, you can come over to YT and go to this channel right here. We are live on YT. The show is Habs After Dark. and we're getting her going here. Torts is going to Boston. I would highly doubt that. I would be very surprised if John Tortorella went to coach the Boston Bruins. But I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I would be very surprised. I think the worst coach was Mike Keenan. Well, again, Mike Keenan is a coach and a style of a past era, right? And I think that Tortorella is too much like Mike Keenan for this generation of hockey player. When will the schedule come out for the Habs Cap series? I have no idea, Fred. I don't know when it'll come out. I suspect it'll probably come out Friday. The last games will be played tomorrow. I believe that's it. I don't think there's any games on Saturday. There's 7 games to be played tomorrow, and then there's no games on Friday. So we'll probably have at least a couple of days off before the series starts. And the series, of course, will start in Washington. What's going on over here on YT, guys? Nobody's asking any questions. I can't really converse if you guys are. I think everybody is over on Coach Frenchie's channel. I seem to have a lot of experience. What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean by that, Fitness King. Anyways, it is what it is. Which pair should play more in the playoffs, Gooley and Hudson or Matheson and Carrier? I don't know. I think it depends on the situation, Tristan. I think it depends on whether the Canadiens have a lead, whether they're struggling, whether they're behind. I mean, I think you're going to see Matheson and Carrier get a lot of ice time. I think you're going to see a lot of that. We'll see. We'll see. I think you'll see. Hudson and Matheson both get quite a lot of ice time. Would love to see Hudson get that last assist, playoff bound. He just got the 1 assist, so I think he finished the year with 6 goals and 60 assists for 66 points. Am I right on that? I will confirm if you like. Box score. Thank you for the thumbs up, whoever that was. So Lane Hudson finishes the season with 6 goals and 60 assists for 66 points. Not bad for a rookie. I think the second line helped the first line a lot tonight. Yeah, I thought the second line played well. They looked dangerous out there. I don't think they didn't get the ice time I thought they might. What did they finish with? 11:55, 10:28, and 12:22. Not a ton of ice time for those guys. But yeah, I mean, the first period especially, they looked quite good. The second line, I thought, I thought that's what they would have done against Chicago. I would have preferred to see Demidov out there with Laine and Newhook as opposed to with Armia and Dvorak. No, Armia and yeah, it was Armia and Armia and Kapanen. Did Montreal win today and clinch a spot? They did. I went on YT and didn't see any comments. I don't know what's going on. There's comments here. I'm getting comments right now. Derek. Sorry, man. Rodney Redcliffe. One more. No more ole ole, please. Well, I don't think you're going to get them to stop doing ole ole at the end of games, Rodney. Now that they're in the playoffs, you might start hearing some of the na 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 hey 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 goodbye song, but I don't know if you saw, but on one of the goals against Chicago, Demidov just completely gave up and let them score. I hope he doesn't do that in the playoffs. I did see the play you're talking about, Tristan. I don't know that I would describe it as he gave up. He certainly didn't do the job you would have expected on the back check. But I think there's a lot more at play, as far as him sort of, yeah, it didn't look great. I'll give you that. It didn't look great. But I'm not sure I would go as far as to say he gave up. But I don't know what happened there. Did I see your comments about Torts? I didn't see your comments about Torts. Derek? He didn't give up. There were two players ahead of him. Yes. I didn't see any comments about Torts. Derek? Yes. What's up, Simon? Simon, hier devenu. Ole, ole, ole. Welcome. If you're over on TikTok, guys, come on and join us on YT. The channel is right there. If you go to your YT app, you can come on over here. You can get in the comment section. We would love to have you come over and join us in the chat. Well, since it's so quiet, I'm going to go to the scoreboard, guys. So here's a scoreboard for tonight's game, guys. As we said, 4-2 Canadiens over the Hurricanes. The win puts the Canadiens into a playoff spot. The first goal of the game came relatively early on. Goal by Caden Gooley, his first of the night, assisted by Juraj Slafkovsky and Nick Suzuki at 3:50 of the first period. That was Suzuki's 59th assist of the season. Relevant because later in the game he added another point. I believe he finishes the season with a total of... What's going on here now? Come on now. Don't do that to me. Nick Suzuki finishes the season with 59 assists for 89 points. So yeah, pretty impressive for Nick Suzuki. Unfortunately, the Hurricanes are able to tie it up right around the midway point of the first period, on a goal by Taylor Hall from Walker and Kotkaniemi at 9:56. Again, the Canadiens just got really, really scrambly in their own zone for whatever reason. Again, they looked really, really nervous. They weren't taking the play to Carolina. Carolina was sort of dominating the play, and the Canadiens were responding to the Hurricanes as opposed to the other way around. And it eventually caught up to them. Taylor Hall scored to tie the game. And that's the way it was after one period. It was tied at 1. Second period, again, the first 15 minutes or so, the Canadiens just really looked nervous. They didn't, they didn't take the game to Carolina. They were gripping their sticks awfully tight. They got a number of scoring opportunities and either missed the net or shot it over the net or sort of fumbled the puck at the last minute. It just didn't look very, very clean and tight in that second period. However, in the last 5 minutes or so, they did manage to score 2 goals. They turned things on a little bit. Nick Suzuki with his 30th of the year from Alexandre Carrier at 16:22, and then Caden Gooley with his second of the night, his 6th of the season from Caulfield and Hudson. That was Lane Hudson's 60th assist of the season with about 1 minute and 12 seconds left in the second period. The Canadiens go into the second intermission with a 3-1 lead. They come out in the third period. They look a little bit better, but still a little bit nervous. Again, they're not taking the game to Carolina. I would have liked to have seen them take the game to Carolina. Carolina was playing with a lot of younger players. They sat a number of their players. Montreal just needed to go out and just play their game and be confident. But for whatever reason, that confidence wasn't there. Carolina scores a goal at 14:10 of the third period to make the score 3-2. It's pretty close, and they're putting the pressure on in the last 5 minutes or so of that third period. They jumped ahead in the shots. They were taking it to the Canadiens quite a bit. Montembeault made the saves he needed to make, but it didn't look great for a little while there. It looked like Carolina might tie it up. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately for Montreal, Jake Evans was able to get his 13th of the year unassisted into an empty net with a little under 2 minutes left in the game to put it away and to give the Canadiens the 4-2 victory and to shut the door and to end the game and to finish things off and give the Canadiens their spot in the playoffs that they've been fighting to get for the last several games. So if we look at the advanced stats, we see the shots were 30-20 for Carolina over Montreal. Again, we're seeing that the Canadiens are not putting shots on goal. They're not taking advantage of their scoring opportunities the way they need to, and it's been hurting them. It's been hurting them a lot, in my view, and it's one of the things I think they do need to work on. Their Corsi was 67-48 again. A big gap there, but not nearly as big. The Canadiens did get have some puck possession. The Fenwick was 45-31. The high danger scoring chances were 12-6. Not sure I'm buying that. High danger scoring chances is a stat that is unpredictable at times. I'm not sure I'm buying that they had double the high danger scoring chances tonight. Again, I'm not in love with that statistic, but it is what it is, and that's what the numbers say. The expected goals for, I think, is probably a more accurate number with Carolina having 3.13 to 2.70 for Montreal, meaning that I guess you would have expected both teams to have around 3 goals tonight. So it tells you that the Canadiens scored one more goal against Kochetkov than what you might have expected, and the Hurricanes scored one fewer goal than you would have expected. So maybe Montembeault had a bit of a better game than his counterpart did. So that's it for the scoreboard, guys. Again, a 4-2 final for the Canadiens. It's what they needed. They needed a point out of the game tonight. It was either a win or a loss in overtime or a shootout. That's what they needed to qualify for the playoffs, and that's what they were able to do tonight. So again, they say it doesn't matter how you win. It's how many, not how. And so tonight they managed to get the win, and so it doesn't really matter how they did it. They did, and they did what they needed to do, and now they'll play playoff games for the first time in a few years. So that's all she wrote for the scoreboard, guys. H.A.D started turning it up in the third period. Yeah, again, I thought that Carolina probably was turning it up a little bit late in the third period. The last bit of the second period was probably the best part of the game for Montreal, in my opinion. Tony B. Why do teams take so many shots against us? Is it because we continually collapse on our goalkeeper? Yeah, I think it probably has a little bit to do with with some of the scrambly work in their defensive zone. Their defensive zone play has been scrambly of late, the last 5 or 6 games. That probably doesn't help. I think I'd agree with that. I don't know if I agree with the part about collapsing back on the goaltender, but certainly I think it's a situation where their defensive zone coverage can struggle at times, and it allows the other team to have prolonged pressure in the Canadian zone. Billy D says would have liked Nick to get to 90 points and Hudson to have broken the assist record, but we'll take it. Absolutely. Again, Suzuki just continues to get better. I think last year he had 77 points. This year he has 89. I think that as he continues to get better, and as Caulfield and Slavkovsky continue to get better, I think you can possibly see that number get even bigger. But yeah, no, it's a great point. Those were some milestones that would have been nice if they could have hit them. But again, 66 points for Lane Hudson in his rookie campaign is pretty solid. And I think maybe we'll see Suzuki knocking on the 100-point door next season. Carney, no question about it, did. So again, guys, I see we're not getting much numbers here tonight. Again, I think that everybody's probably overwatching Coach. Coach apparently now is doing after-game stuff as well. He's not just doing the game. Coach is trying to get as many people as he can. Let me see if he's still going. Is Coach still going? Coach is still going. So Coach is going to go all night. So we're going to fight probably and struggle to try and get people in here to watch tonight, guys. Sorry, but I'm doing the best I can. So if you are enjoying the show, guys, give us a thumbs up. If you're not yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button. That would be awesome. I do appreciate it. But yeah, we're going to have to figure out a way to see if we can get some more people in here, get some more subscribers, and get some more people asking questions. If you're over on TikTok, we'd love to have you over here on YT. All you got to do is go to this channel on YT, guys, and come on over and ask us your questions. Get into the comments, the chat, help us grow our channel here, and that would be awesome. No, nobody's got any questions. We got one here. Bad luck for Gooley on that bounce rather than it thought he played more offensive and Hudson played more defensively. I think Hudson probably needs a couple days break here. I don't know that he's really physically tired as much as it's maybe a mental tiredness with him. But yeah, that's yeah. I think he'll definitely benefit from having a couple days off there. Did the Canadiens clinch? They did, Evan. Yes. The Canadiens clinched a playoff spot and will play a first-round series against the Washington Capitals. How did the game go tonight? They didn't have a great game, Evan. They played well enough to win. Carolina sat a number of their starters. The Canadiens won 4-2 with an empty net goal. They had a number of opportunities to score, but sorry, Tony B. I missed your kind words. Thank you. I don't know if it's impressive or not. I'm trying to do my best. I enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. I didn't realize that coach was going to be doing so much after the game stuff. I try not to step on his toes and do shows when he's doing shows, but um, anyways, it is what it is. Yeah, Evan, the Canadians played a decent game. Again, they probably, I feel like they looked a little bit nervous. I feel like they weren't necessarily, um, I don't want to say they weren't up to the task. I think that the task was a lot for them tonight. The pressure and the situation was a lot for them tonight. Um, I think that they were good enough to win, but again, I think they're going to have to play better hockey than this if they want to have any chance of giving Washington a run for their money in the first round of the playoffs. We get 4 more games. Yes, Luciano. If you're over on on TikTok, come join us on YT, guys. Any more questions, guys? Or is that it? I'll go to the A team then, guys. It looks like we might have a short show again tonight, guys. There's just not enough numbers here. So there's your A team, guys, for tonight. You have Caden Gooley, Nick Suzuki, Uri Slavkovsky, and Josh Anderson. So those are my selections for the players on the Montreal Canadiens who performed the best. Who, again, it's obviously my choices. It's subjective that way, but those are the guys who I thought were the biggest players for Montreal tonight. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, let me know. If there's any guys on there that I have that you don't think belong there, let me know. And if you have any guys on there that you feel like don't belong that I did pick, then let me know that as well. I'd be happy to hear your input and your take on it. For me, Caden Gooley, the 2 goals. I mean, you can't overlook the 2 goals. The Canadians haven't had an offensive outburst from a defenseman like that all year. That's big time stuff by Caden Gooley, right? I think there's a guy who you expect to be a leader down the road, and you want him to play that kind of a role. You want him to be a guy who can eventually step into those big minutes. And he showed something tonight. All around game I don't think was the best, but he certainly scored those 2 goals, and you can't really look beyond that. So Nick Suzuki again, just captain leadership. I suspect it looks to me like he's playing through a bit of an injury. I know he took a tough hit at the very end of the Chicago game from Vlasic. He looked a little slow and hesitant a little bit in the overtime on Monday, and then he looked same tonight. But again, Nick Suzuki's a smart enough player that even if he doesn't have everything physically, he can still contribute, and he certainly did tonight. He scored a big goal. I don't think did the Canadiens take a penalty tonight? Yeah, they did. He killed penalty tonight. Was on the power play, double shifting on the power play, and Nick Suzuki is a gamer. He's going to show up. He's going to do his thing, and he certainly did tonight, despite the fact that it looks to me like he might be playing through a little bit of an injury. Hopefully, a few days off will certainly help that and help him heading into the playoffs. Slavkovsky, I thought, had a good game. Again, I've been on the Slavkovsky train all along. I'm not one of these people who jumps on and off of his bandwagon. Yeah, he's still young and hasn't been the most consistent player, but on most nights he contributes in some way or another. Tonight he did a lot, right? As somebody pointed out, he had a role to play on each of the first 3 goals. His work on the boards and winning battles tonight, and just using his body. Not, again, everyone thinks that him being physical means he's out there hammering guys. You don't, for him, he can be physical without doing that. Like for him, it's winning board battles. It's getting between his opponent and the puck, and that kind of stuff. You saw him a couple times there tonight where he got the puck with one hand on his stick and he was kind of holding off the guy with the other hand, and I thought he had a strong game tonight. And my fourth guy, and this was probably maybe the more controversial pick was Josh Anderson. His underlying numbers weren't incredible, but I just thought he showed a lot tonight. He had a really a lot of pace tonight. He did some really nice stuff defensively, killing penalties. There were a couple of plays at the very end of the game when Carolina was kind of putting the pressure on before the Canadiens scored the empty net goal, where he made some really nice plays, as did Slavkovsky, blocking shots and just sticking with his man. I thought he had a good game. He had a nice chance on a breakaway, or a partial breakaway anyway. I just thought he had a good game. I thought he showed a lot of jump tonight. I thought his forecheck was good, as it always is. And I could have probably put Caulfield in that spot. The whole first line, I think, was really good. I always kind of struggle with putting an entire line on the A team together, but maybe tonight I could have done that. But I was impressed with Josh Anderson tonight. Again, he Gallagher, another guy who maybe in that spot. Hopefully, it looked like he tweaked his back or something. I'm not sure exactly what happened there on that injury, but yeah. So that's the A team for tonight, guys. So if you like I said, if you disagree, let me know. If you agree, let me know. If there's guys I missed, let me know. If there's guys I picked that I shouldn't have, let me know. I see Tony B says he disagrees regarding Anderson. Well, maybe tell me why, Tony. Tell me why. What is it you thought about Anderson's game that you didn't like tonight, or was it just that you thought somebody else was better or should have been there instead of him? Happy to to respond and agree or disagree with you. What's up, PLW? Welcome. I'm glad you popped over from the Coach Frenchie show. I guess Coach Frenchie's doing Coach After Dark now, and not just the game. So I guess we're gonna have to compete with that. Gooley looked like Robinson tonight. I'm not sure I would go that far, but I like the sentiment. Larry Robinson is one of my favorites of all time, and I think he's one of the best defensemen of all time. Arguably one of the three greatest defensemen of all time. I would certainly make that argument. But he did look good tonight. Scored 2 goals, played well defensively, was physical. That's the Caden Gooley that we need, right? That's the Caden Gooley that the Canadiens want, and that's the Caden Gooley that hopefully will be a big player on this team heading down the road. Tristan says Monty. He wants Monty in there. Suzuki was also double shifting on the power play. Yes, he was. You're right. He's been doing that for a few games now. He has been doing that for a few games now. My A team says PLW, Slav, Gooley, Matheson, and Caulfield. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad choices. I'm not sure I would have had Matheson there necessarily. Caulfield, I think, certainly, you could definitely have Caulfield in there instead of Anderson. But yeah, no, I liked. I think Suzuki deserves to be there as well. So, but yeah, those aren't bad picks. Charles Olivier, bonjour Charles Olivier. Ça fait longtemps. The Habs were definitely playing under a certain pressure in the last few games to clinch, but I feel confident that with the pressure being off, the Habs will bounce back versus Washington. Yeah, maybe. Hopefully. Again, it depends on what kind of approach they take to the playoffs, right? Again, I don't think that pressure is necessarily a bad thing. It's how you respond to the pressure. And I mean, I think there certainly will be pressure associated with playing in the playoffs. I mean, it's not as if the pressure disappears now. Hopefully they can take an approach that, this is a situation where, they've already, where it's like, anything they accomplish now is a bonus, right? Where it's, they've, making the playoffs was, but again, they want to win. So there's always going to be a certain level of pressure that way. But, again, for me, the big thing is that, they need to go out and they need to play their game, and they need to force the other team to respond to them, right? They need the other team to respond to them. They need the other team to, to be on their back foot. And, they didn't do that the last 5 or 6 games. That's the way they played, in the 6, 7, or 8 games after the 4 Nations. It's the way they played on the 8 or 9 or 10 games after the Christmas break, where they went out and they played their system, their game, and the other teams had a hard time dealing with it. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Suzuki 2 for 7 and Newhook 0 for 5 in faceoffs in the ozone. I didn't like that at all, especially since they were the go-to ozone faceoff takers. I don't think anybody really did well on faceoffs tonight, PLW, and it's certainly a weakness of the team overall. I don't know that him going 2 for 7 on the faceoffs was enough for me to take him off of the A team. He led the team in expected goals for. He led the team in Corsi for. He led the team in not in shots percentage. He was close. He led the team in almost every statistical category tonight. So again, I think the entire team struggled in the face-off circle tonight. It was a problem for sure, but it's been an issue for this team, pretty much all year long, right? Tony B says that I think you're talking about Josh Anderson. He didn't have any impactful moments. Heineman was much more effective. Okay. I mean, I don't agree, but I can see your point. I mean, I thought that Anderson had some impactful moments as far as creating turnovers on the forecheck. He had the breakaway, and I thought his defensive game was pretty solid, especially at the end of the game when they were fighting off Carolina's push, in the last 5 minutes or so. But yeah, I mean, Heineman played okay tonight too. I didn't think Heineman looked that great, but again, he's coming off missing 5 or 6 games, so. That's tough, right? PLW says Matheson chewed up 26 minutes +2. Yeah, again, Matheson had a good game. I thought not his best game. He's near the bottom. He's at the middle of the pack when it comes to expected goals for and stats like that. But yeah, I mean, he contributes. I mean, I like Matheson, and I kind of stand up to the Matheson criticism and hate when it's not deserved. I don't think he had a bad game tonight. I just don't think, for me, he deserved to make it onto the A team. Why be better? What's going on? I think you're new here. Why be better? Welcome. Thanks for the question. Demidov on power play 1. I see why people would want that. I get that. However, I think there's a lot of chemistry that goes into playing on a power play unit. I'm not saying that Demidov's not good enough to be on that power play unit, but the other thing that a lot of people need to keep in mind is that the Canadiens are really, really keen to try and have 2 good power play units, right? That's the ideal situation for any team, is when you have 2 good power play units, right? When you can put your second power play unit out there and they're just as or almost as effective as your first power play unit. So putting him on the second power play unit isn't a demotion. It isn't what the Canadiens, the power play for the Canadiens this year, frankly, in my opinion, I'd have to go back and look at the stats to confirm it, but the Canadiens power play was at its best this year when Lane Hudson was on the second power play unit, right? When they had 2 dangerous power play units that could go out there and score a goal on any given night. And that's what they want, right? So again, putting Demidov on that first unit, you don't want to have all of your best power play guys on one unit, and then have a second power play unit that the other team doesn't even have to really concert itself with, right? Like, that's not what they're trying to accomplish. And I think Demidov maybe someday will work his way into being on that first power play unit, but being that it's only, he's only played the 2 games right now, I think it's a bit early for that. And I think you're going to see him get similar treatment to what Lane Hudson got, right? I know everybody wanted Lane Hudson to go onto that first power play right off the bat, but that's not the way it worked, right? You worked your way into it, and I think that turned out pretty well. What's up, Wesh? Welcome back. Charles Olivier, yeah, well, like you said, I feel they could play better by embracing the fact that the playoffs are bonus and playing spoilers and watching. Yeah, I mean, again, I think that there will be pressure, and it's just a matter of how they approach it. And I think that, for me, the more relaxed the Canadiens are, and the more, there's some really good interviews of late with Marty St. Louis where he talks about sort of the interplay between, your nerves and, getting up for the game, but also being calm enough that you remember your systems and remember your job and not sort of letting the emotion of the situation take over. And, your ability to stay within the systems and whatever your abilities to do that are better when your brain's not going 1,000 miles an hour. And so, there's a fine line between the intensity that you want to bring and not being so intense that you kind of fall out of your structure and your systems and the way you need to play in order to be successful. And so, all of that is interesting, right? And it's all about young players and teaching them how to manage and control those emotions in a way that gives you the best opportunity to be successful. Bonjour Antoine, cheers. PLW, not doubting about A-team selection, but ozone face-off is a problem with PP efficiency. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the face-off circle has been a struggle for the Canadiens all year long at PLW. I would venture to say that's been something they've struggled with, and yeah, 100%. Heineman's forechecking surely helped. Yeah, I think Heineman and Josh Anderson, I think, have been the two best forecheckers for Montreal all year round. Coach is sweating and tired after a great play-by-play. Yeah, Coach does a lot of work, man. He puts in a lot of time, and he's in Thailand where it's probably 150 degrees out. So, yeah, and he's doing after game. Is he still on the air now? I don't know if he's ended his show now, but yeah, he's doing. Apparently, he's doing post-game stuff now too. He's not just doing the play-by-play. So, good for Coach. Coach works hard. Charles Olivier, encore. Qu'est-ce qu'il a dit cette fois? I also realized that the Habs also get a lot of shots blocked, especially Matheson, Slav, and Carrier. So maybe bad decisions that could be corrected to help the team generate more offense. I agree with that. I find that Matheson in particular makes some strange decisions about when to take shots. He has a lot of shots get blocked. He has a lot of shots that miss the net. And he has a lot of shots that just are end up being easy saves as well. But no, it's we'll see. I mean, I don't know about Slav and Carrier as much, but certainly I do notice that with I do notice that with Matheson. Wesh. Happy, but damn, that was an ugly game against a C team. Yeah, I don't know if I would call them a C team, wesh, but yeah, certainly, the opportunity was there for them to really take it to Carolina tonight with the younger team. I thought the young players played well. They, sometimes, as Marco pointed out to us today in our group chat, sometimes playing against those young players who are, hungry and fresh and whatever is not easy either. But I do feel like the Canadiens were more nervous than they needed to be. And like I've said, a few times already in the show, it's like I would have liked to have seen them take it to Carolina and force Carolina to respond to them instead of letting Carolina do what they wanted out there, which is kind of what happened. And I would have liked to seen them put some more pressure on those young players, right? It's, those young players, inexperienced players will probably do better when they have the puck and when they're, taking the play to Montreal versus when you're forcing them to respond to your play. Antoine, I had confidence that they would clinch the wild card. Yeah, I was relatively confident too. I mean, it was always in the back of my mind that there was a possibility that they might not get it, but I figured with all of the opportunities for them to get a point or to get a win or a point or whatever, depending on what point of you're going back to, or for Columbus to lose or whatever. I thought at one point it had to break. Hudson will need to be protected versus Washington. He was roughed up. Yeah, I agree completely. I agree with that. I mean, he does a pretty good job of protecting himself, and what I mean by that is protecting himself from taking big hits. He's pretty good at rolling off them and avoiding them, but he did get crunched a couple times. And the referees are doing nothing. The one hit was a complete hit to the head, and the referee. I mean, of course, RDS didn't even mention it because they refuse. They refuse to question the referees on RDS, but yeah, I think you're right. I agree, and I mean, honestly, I honestly think that Jack-I should have been in the lineup these last few games. I know that's not the most popular opinion, but I think that Jack-I brings more than Jaden Struble does, and everyone points to Jaden Struble and how well he played for the last month, and he absolutely did. But I think that if Arber Jack-I had been on a line with or on a pairing with Lane Hudson for the last 4 or 5 weeks, I think he'd probably be have similar. There'd be similar feelings about him as well. So, but I agree. I agree that there needs to be a little bit more done to try and protect young Lane Hudson. I'm celebrating with champagne tonight with a special guest. See you in the playoffs. Oh, okay, Antoine. Well, I know we're Habs after dark, bleu blanc, rouge nuit, but let's keep the bedroom talk to a minimum here. Just kidding. Charles Olivier, so would you suggest maybe putting Matheson on PP1 and Hudson PP2 in order to maybe generate more offense with Demidov? No, not necessarily. I think that double shifting Suzuki gives that power play PP2 unit. I mean, it's fine. I think it's fine. I mean, you could mix and match if you wanted, but I just think that at this stage of the season, I don't think you want to ruin any chemistry that's there. Like, I don't think you want to start moving guys around and start tinkering too much with your power play. I think you can get yourself in a lot of trouble when you start making major changes and overhauls to your power play at this point in a season, right? Like, we've seen it before with Montreal where, their power play struggles and then they start trying to make all these changes and wholesale, moving guys around and all this kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden the power play just becomes really bad because, there's really nothing going on there. Coach is finished for tonight? Okay, well, that's why you guys are all here now. You guys all came over here once Coach was done. He states that there's a lot of people around shooting super chats. Yes. I believe the Canadiens are the youngest team to make the playoffs. I think it's the youngest team in a while. I don't know if it's the youngest team ever. I don't know if it's I don't know. Wesh, do we start Arber against the Caps? Again, not my decision, Wesh. I suspect they're not going to. I suspect that Marty St. Louis will continue with Struble. I think if he had any intention of playing Arber in the playoffs, he would have played him in these games. Not my decision to make. I would tend to lean towards Jack-I. I certainly would have given him a game or two here down the stretch. I wouldn't have sort of completely benched him. I would have rotated him a little bit with Struble, but I think that one of the things that Marty St. Louis still needs to work on as a coach is his ability to he falls in love with certain, I don't want to say certain players, but certain lineups. He gets ideas in his head. That's something that he loves, and he pushes for that. And I think he needs to work on maybe not doing that as much. Again, I'm a huge proponent of leaving your lines together. I'm very much against. I'm very much against like moving guys off of lines. Just because I think you try and leave your lines together as much as you can. But I find that that Marty St. Louis has guys that he views as his go-to guys that he can, that that he falls in love with. Like, I mean, Matheson, again, I like Matheson, and you've heard me defend Matheson, but, some nights he's playing 28, 29, 30 minutes. And that's because, Marty St. Louis has a ton of confidence in him to go out there and do the job, which is fine. And I have no problem with that. And I agree with that. But, when you're coming up on, 70 game 75, 76, 77, 78, 8, end of the year, Mike Matheson is going to not have much left if you keep doing that kind of stuff, right? And I think the same thing can be said for, him sort of falling in love with Jaden Struble. I think he's done it to a certain degree with Montembeault, right? Like, I mean, I have no problem. I think Montembeault's the number one. And, I've rarely disagreed with, the decision to start Montembeault over Dobesh. But I also think that you have to find a way to mix Dobesh into it a little bit as well, right? Because, again, you're going into the playoffs with a goalie who's played 60 some games, right? Like Montembeault tonight played his 63rd game of the year, right? That's not ideal going into the playoffs, having a goalie who's played that many games. And if the Canadiens were a team that was looking at possibly going on a long playoff run, you're asking a lot from your number one goalie. So again, I think that one of the things that Marty St. Louis does need to work on as far as his coaching is concerned is sort of, not relying too much on too few players, right? Like moving, finding ways to get everybody involved a little bit more. PLW, Carolina has a strong lineup. They are a sleeper for the cup. People and analysts wrongly blamed their GM for the Rantanen acquisition. It ended up very good for them. Yeah, arguably, I think the if you're going to criticize them for the Rantanen, trading for Rantanen, then the criticism would be, not having a higher degree of certainty that you were going to be able to sign him. I thought they did a good job of recovering from that. I'm not sure I agree that they got the best of the deal. I'm not sure. I mean, again, I suppose it depends on whether you feel like they could have, re-signed Natchez at the end of his contract, or whether they felt they couldn't. Stankhoven obviously is a good prospect and a good young player, and he'll help them. But Marty Natchez is a pretty good hockey player as well. So we'll see. I mean, it'll remain to be seen, I guess. If Stankhoven turns out to be a superstar, then maybe it does turn out very, very well for them. But again, I think the criticism for Tulski came in sort of the idea that, he made a trade for, a $12, $13 million guy who he had no idea whether or not he was going to be able to sign him or not. Hudson ties the record for most assists by a rookie defenseman. Did he tie the record, or did he fall one short? Most assists NHL rookie defenseman. Oh, you did tie it. You're right. I thought the record was 61. He tied it. Larry Murphy. And the most points by a rookie. That's most goals by a rookie. Where is it? Most points rookie defenseman season. So he finishes, so he added 1 point today. So he finishes in a tie for fourth all-time for most points by a rookie defenseman with Phil Housley. So the only players who ever had more points than Lane Hudson did in his rookie season were Larry Murphy, Brian Leach, and Gary Suter. That's pretty good company. What's going on over on TikTok, guys? What's up, G? If you want to join the show, you can come on over to YT and go to that channel right there and join us over here, guys. Carolina GM had a great plan B, Stankoven and some draft picks. Yeah, I don't know that it was a plan B. I think it was probably something he kind of he kind of you know figured out at the on the run a little bit, right? Devin, you put Struble many times on the A team. Absolutely, I like Struble. I think he's a great defenseman. But I also think that Arbor Jacki is a great defenseman, and he brings an element that Jaden Struble doesn't. And I do think that one of the reasons why Struble was on the A team so many times over the last month and a half or so is because of the bump he got from playing with Lane Hutson, right? We've seen a number of defensemen get a little bit of a bump from playing with Lane Hutson. Arbor Jacki has played the majority of his minutes this season with David Savard. And I think we've seen that playing with David Savard this year has been a bit of an anchor, 5-on-5 in particular, for most of the defensemen who've had to play with him this year. And so all I'm saying is that I think that Jacki brings an element to the team that Struble doesn't. And I feel like if the roles had been reversed and Struble had played the last month and a half on a pairing with David Savard and Jacki had been playing with Lane Hutson, that we'd be talking about a very different story. We've had this conversation before, PLW. I'm not really interested in getting into it again with you. I fear Jacki is done for the season pending injury. I think you're probably right, Tristan. I think you're probably right. Again, it's an interesting dynamic because I think there's an argument to be made. There's an argument to be made for putting Jacki in over Savard, right? The argument would go this way: would be Arbor Jacki is part of the future of the team. David Savard is not. So, insofar as, Marty St. Louis is sort of riding a line between development and winning now, obviously David Savard being in the lineup is because you believe he helps you win now, right? You want him on the penalty kill. You want him out there late in a game when the other team pulls their goalie, or you're up by a goal with 45 seconds left. You want David Savard on the ice. But the reality is beyond this year, David Savard's probably not a part of this team. So if you're building this team for the future, you could make the argument that the team is better served by having Arbor Jacki and giving other players that experience, so that next year when they make the playoffs, or the year after that when they make the playoffs, or the year after that when they there may be a Stanley Cup contender, you've got Caden Gooley, and you've got Arbor Jacki who have played those minutes, right? Those kinds of minutes that David Savard is playing now. You're going to need somebody else to play that role in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, and this is a great opportunity to give them that experience. Now, I'm not arguing that they need to take him out. I'm just saying that's the argument for it, right? So if you're leaning towards the development side of things and building this team for when they become a contender, then again, like I said, you could make the argument that you're better served by having some of these guys. And again, it's kind of too late now, because if you were going to do that, you would have done that over the last couple months, where you would have given them the opportunity to experience that role before the playoffs, right? And now that you're where you're at, it's kind of, you can't just say, okay, well now, Savard has played this role all year. Now we're going to throw, somebody else into that role and see how they do. But, I think that's an argument to be made. Do I get the sense that Line A is pressing? Maybe a little bit. I think he's still slowed down a little bit by either his knee injury or the fact that he's played so little hockey over the last couple of years. he still does great things on the ice. I mean, he's some really, really nice passes in the last few games, right? It's not just about his shot. Despite the narrative that a lot of people would try and feed and shove down your throat, he's doing a lot of other things. I thought he had some great defensive shifts tonight. There was one shift where he had a couple of back-to-back battles behind the net where he did quite well. But yeah, I think he's probably pressing a little bit. I think he's probably struggling with the fact that he can't do some of the things he's used to being able to do because the speed's not there. Like he's making moves on guys that, what's up, Mac Long, that he's usually able to do, because he's got a little bit more speed. But again, I thought he moved the puck really well tonight. I thought he moved the puck really well against Chicago. Again, I don't have a major issue with Patrick Laine. For me, even in the games where he doesn't have great games, he still manages to have pretty decent numbers as far as the advanced analytics go, and he usually finds a way to contribute. So, yeah. The Rockets are number 1 in the AHL. Yes, they are. Wesh. That's a lot of minutes. I think you're talking about Matheson. Go Habs and go Rockets. Yes. PLW. Laine and Demidov showed a sense of crazy creativity in the first period. They're both super intelligent hockey players with crazy vision, right? When you see Laine, even Newhook, right? Like Newhook with his speed and his ability to get pucks off the boards and help those guys out. I mean, if he could, get some confidence in his finishing, and that would be a scary combination. Leave your line together, yes. Maybe just a short time twist, 1 or 2 shifts, and then go back is all good. Yeah, again, I don't love it. I don't like. To me, the idea of moving your lines around when guys are struggling seems counterintuitive to me. It seems to me that if you're introducing another difficulty to players who are not playing well, who are struggling, right? So your second line is struggling, and now all of a sudden you're going to say, well, now go play with another line mate, and now all of a sudden you're playing with a line mate that you're not used to playing with. I don't know how that helps you. I don't know how that helps you play better. Robida is responsible for the huge amount of minutes for Matheson. Yes and no. Yes and no. I don't think that he's. I don't think I would say that he's responsible. I think he is partly responsible, but I think it's something that they discuss. I think that Marty St. Louis does obviously have the final say, and I think it's I wouldn't go as far as to say that Robida is fully responsible for those minutes. I say we win in 7 versus Caps, but fall in 5 versus Devils. Well, okay. Tristan's coming out with the predictions. I like it. I like Arbor better, but Struble, I think you mean is okay. Yeah, I mean, they're both good, and I like Struble a lot. I really like Struble a lot. But again, I think that Jack-Eye just brings elements that Struble doesn't, and I think that right now Struble is ahead of Jack-Eye because he's playing better hockey than Jack-Eye is right now. But I think that it's a lot about confidence with young guys like that, and right now Struble's confidence is. I mean, it's coming down a little bit. He's obviously not playing. I mean, he's not playing nearly as well now that he's not getting out on the ice with Hudson as much as he did, before. But to bring Jack-Eye in now would be very, very tough, right? To expect a lot or much from Jack-Eye if you did decide to bring him into the lineup, for Game 1 of the playoffs. I don't know how you could possibly have high expectations for him. Andrew Robidoux. Maybe I'm a biased Habs fan, but I don't think the Caps are a great number 1 seed. They have a goalie who hasn't played meaningful hockey, and I don't think they are strong up front. Yeah, I mean, they're obviously a decent number one seed. I mean, they've essentially led the league from beginning to end. I think they're a surprise to be the number one seed. So in that sense, you could argue that when does the bubble burst for them? They don't have. You say they're not strong up front. I think you're right in the sense that they don't have guys who have a long track record in their forwards. Right, they've got a lot of guys who are having breakout seasons. And so when you have a breakout season, the question becomes, well, can you carry it over into the playoffs, or how long is it going to last? Like how long is, are guys like McMichael and Strome and whatever able to play at an elite level, right? They're playing at an elite level so far this year, but they haven't demonstrated, in their careers that they're elite hockey players. Right. So if they're, if they can continue to be elite at the level that they've been all year, then they're going to be pretty tough. As far as the goaltending goes, I think the same can be said, right? They've got a couple goaltenders who've had really, really great years, but who haven't necessarily, don't have a long track record of it, right? They're two goaltenders who, have had success in their careers, but they're not Vasilevsky, they're not Shesterkin, they're not, guys who've had, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of solid, goaltending under their belt. So the question becomes, when does the bubble pop, or does the bubble pop? Like, is this who they're going to be for the rest of their career? Or is this just an abnormality where they're going to go back to their old selves, and we're going to see the old Charlie Lindgren, or we're going to see the old, it's just, that's the question, right? So in that sense, I think, I get your point, and I think that the idea that they're not a great number one seed, I don't know if I would term it that way, but I think I would agree with you in the sense that they're not. It's not like they're the they're not the Colorado Avalanche, or they're not they're not a group of guys who have a long track record of this kind of what they're doing. Not everybody, but for a lot of their players, they're doing things that are beyond what you would have expected from them. So in that sense, they may be ripe. But again, the Canadiens are going to have to play a lot better than they did tonight and on Monday and over the last 4 or 5 games if they're going to have any chance of giving the Capitals a run for their money. Other than sit in his little corner and wait for one-timers, what does Alex Ovechkin do? He has worse defense than Demidov and Line A, and that's saying something. Yeah, I agree with that to an extent. What kind of role is Alex Ovechkin going to have on that team now that he's broken the record? Yeah, he can obviously put the puck in the net, but, I don't know what kind of role he can play 5-on-5 in play. He can still be physical, but he's, his skating is not what it once was. So, sorry, I missed this comment. Andrew Robidoux says Arbor and Wilson off the starting face-off game 1. It's extraordinarily unlikely that Arbor Jackeye will play in game 1. So I'll say that. I don't see it. And unfortunately, like I said earlier, I talked at length about one of Marty St. Louis' weaknesses as a coach for me is that even if he wanted to bring Arbor Jackeye back into the lineup right now, the fact that he sat him out for the last, I don't know what it is now, 7, 8, 9 games, whatever it is, you couldn't put Arbor Jackeye into the game and expect much from him right now. Like if you put Arbor Jackeye into game 1 and he struggled, you really wouldn't reasonably be able to blame him. Right? It'd be you'd be putting him in a very, very tough spot. So, Patrick is too slow for the NHL. I disagree, Rodney. He's got 35 points this year in 45 games. So clearly he's not too slow for the NHL. He's still, still producing at a high level. I think that he is slower than he has been, and you hope that once his knee can he can do a little bit more rehab on his knee, that he can recover some of that speed. But again, I think what's the argument for him being too slow in the NHL? I mean, he's got. I mean, what are we talking about? Like he has. Why is this not working? The NHL website's down. He's got 33 points in 52 games. Like, that's not too slow for the NHL. I mean, it might be, those numbers might be low compared to where he was earlier in his career, but Canadiens 4-2 against Washington. Canadiens get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Canadiens going to do good. Montreal Canadiens got many good players and a good team. We'll see, Sebastien. We shall see. I think that's pretty heavy expectations, but we'll see. Anything can happen. They're in the playoffs now. How good it feels to talk about what if Habs pick one game out of two in Washington in Washington and comes back to Montreal for game 3 and 4. Yeah, again, if you win one game in Washington, then you've got home ice advantage, right? That's always the big debate when you're in a playoff series, right? A playoff series is never over until somebody wins on the road. So you were right. The Canadiens made the playoffs. Okay. I don't remember you saying, I mean, a lot of people said that, but playoff time is the best when your team is in it. We will need to talk about playoff expectations. I mean, I have no expectations for the playoffs, right? Like I've said before, anything going forward with this team is the cherry on top of the sundae, the gravy on top of the steak and the mashed potatoes. Like, this is not, anybody who tells you that they expected the Canadiens to make the playoffs this year, is either kidding themselves, or like, this is far above the expectations that you could reasonably have had for this team coming into this season. So, whether they win a game in the playoffs or whether they get knocked out or whether they get whatever. I mean, obviously it's going to suck if they get swept. You're not going to want to see that. And obviously you're going to be really happy if they win the series against Washington. But again, they're a number 8 seed, right? So anything they do now is, the rebuild is well ahead of schedule. And obviously, if you're an 8 seed and you knock off a number 1 seed, it's a humongous upset. So again, to go in with an expectation that they're going to, beat the President's Cup champions, you can't expect that, right? You can say you hope for it. You can say that you think they can do it. You can say that it's possible, but to say that you expect it, those are not reasonable expectations. If the Canadiens won versus Chicago, then you could have put Xhekaj and Roy and Dobesh in tonight, but we had to make it. Yeah, I agree, Tristan. I think you could have given a lot of guys the night off tonight, right? If they had managed to qualify for the playoffs against Chicago, I think it would have given you an opportunity to do a lot of things. Ovechkin at his age finds a way to always get open. Smart play. Yeah, he's an extremely smart player, which is the only reason he's able to continue to play at the age of 40, right? He doesn't have the physical traits that he once did, and he certainly, without his brain, I don't think he would be able to compete in the NHL, with his physical abilities. So, first time since '93, 5 Canadian teams made the playoffs. We all know what happened then. I do. I remember it very well, Rodney. I remember it very well. Suzuki, Caulfield, Newhook, Gallagher, Slavkovsky, Demidov, Matheson, Gooley, Laine, Hudson. That's a good team. Absolutely. I agree with you, Sebastien. What's up, Morgan? That's the expression I was looking for, Morgan. House money. Everything's house money now, guys. Anything that happens after this is a bonus. It's extra. It's gravy. It's the whipped cream. It's the cherry. It's all the extras. It's like anything they do from now on is just is a bonus. Um, like I said earlier in the show, Morgan, if you would have asked me before the season started, I would have said there was an outside chance of the Canadiens making the playoffs. If you would have asked me on November the 1st, I would have said there's no chance of the Canadiens making the playoffs. If you would have asked me on February 1st, I would have said there's a decent chance of them making the playoffs. So it's been up and down. I think that at this stage, as far as the rebuild's concerned, they've made huge steps forward this year. They're way ahead in the standings. They're way ahead in their goal differential. Individual players have improved. From past years or from last year. Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, Gooley, Montembeault. They've added Lane Hudson and Patrick Laine to the mix. Demidov obviously is now part of the situation. So great, great advancement regardless of whether they made the playoffs and regardless of what they do, now that the playoffs are here. If you had to pick 3 keys to have success in the playoffs, what would they be? For me, the first thing would be for them to play their game, right? I think they need to approach the playoffs with a certain level of calmness, right? They need to sort of go out there and play their game. They need to take the game to the other team and force the other team to respond to them. They can't sort of get tight and sort of they can't get tight and start gripping their sticks really, really, tightly and all that. They've got to go out and just, play hockey and realize that they're playing with house money, right? And not get too, again, I hate to use the word pressure because pressure is not necessarily a bad thing, but not let the pressure get to them, I guess. So I think the other key will be probably the mental fatigue that I think they've got right now. If they can recover from that, right? Like they're going to have hopefully 4, maybe 5 days off before the first playoff game. So I think they need to. I don't know that they're physically fatigued right now, but I think they might be mentally fatigued, and I think they do need to recover from that a little bit before they get started. I think they also need to. I think the third one would be maybe sort of their physical play, right? That they don't. That I don't. I think they need to not be intimidated by particularly Washington, their physical game. Like they, as a young team, I think they need to go out and be physical themselves and not allow Washington to sort of, beat them up, if I could, use that terminology. So those would be my 3 things off the top of my head. If I had time to sit and think about it a little bit more, I might come up with something a little bit better, but I expected the Canadiens to make the playoffs, and people laughed at me. They were wrong, though. Well, again, if you expected them to make the playoffs, then it's not so much that, I would have laughed at you for saying that's not it wasn't a reasonable expectation at the beginning of this year. So, whether you said it or not, you can take the pat on the back for saying it, but at the end of the day, if you said that you thought they were going to make the playoffs or you expected them to make the playoffs, then that was an unreasonable expectation, right? It'd be like me saying that I expect them to win the Stanley Cup. And if somehow by some miracle they do, me, looking for a pat on the back for it, because the reality is at this stage right now today on, April the 17th, expecting the Canadiens to win the Stanley Cup is not a reasonable expectation. So, did Washington win the President's Cup? I believe did Winnipeg win it? Winnipeg may have won it. You might be right, Morgan. Agree that every playoff game is gravy, but players and coaching staff still have a plan. This is why they play. Absolutely. Again, I think we always have to draw the distinction between, the fans' expectations, the organization's expectations and the players' expectations, right? Like the players always want to win, right? Like the Buffalo Sabres players on the first day of the season, if you would have asked them what their goal was to win the Stanley Cup. If you would have asked the Montreal Canadiens at the beginning of the year, their goal was to make the playoffs and win the Stanley Cup. They want to win every single game they play. Like their goal is to go 82-0, right? But that doesn't mean that if they don't go 82-0 that the season's a failure, right? From an overall perspective. And so when the Canadiens, like let's say the Canadiens had lost tonight and Columbus won tomorrow and the Canadiens didn't make the playoffs. Obviously that would be a huge kick in the dick for the players, for the fans, for everybody. But 2 weeks from now, you would hope that they would then be able to sort of sit back and look at the season and sit down and have a beer and talk about it and say, okay, well, that really sucked, but overall, this was a good season. It's successful, right? And so that's why I say that they're playing with house money, that any games they play right now are gravy, all that stuff, right? It's for the players it's going to suck. That last game when they get eliminated from the playoffs is going to stink, right? It's going to when that game's over, they're going to go to the dressing room, they're going to be upset, they're going to be pissed off, they're going to be quiet, they're not going to they're not going to feel very good about it. Sorry, I'm watching the Mooseheads and Rejoignez-nous Husky highlights here. Looks like Rouyn is going to put a beating on the Mooseheads. I think anytime you're talking about expectations or goals or whatever, you have to sort of, you have to distinguish between the shots are 20-3 for Rouyn-Noranda. You have to distinguish between like the players, expectations and the, everybody else's. It has been an excellent season for the Canadiens. Andrew, any guys you think the Habs should target in a trade this summer? Who should we trade? Hage, Reinbacher, Fowler, Mailloux? I wouldn't trade any of those guys. I think that would be counter to the rebuild and the philosophy of the rebuild to trade any of those guys. I don't know that we need to make any trades. I think if the right trade comes along for the right deal, I think they make it. But again, I don't think they're out there desperately needing to make a trade to the point where they're trading away what you call a high caliber prospect. I don't agree with that. I don't think they're at the stage. I don't think they're at a stage in the rebuild where they need to, be giving up on some of their prospects in order to bring in, like a guy who can step right into the lineup. I'm not there yet. Kapanen, Heineman, and Demidov would be a great line. I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be a great line. Rodney. Yeah, I'm not with him on that either, Morgan. Habs in Washington play Monday. Is the schedule out? I don't believe the schedule is out, is it? I could be wrong. Oh, there are games. They have released the playoff schedule. I'm noticing that's probably why the website was down earlier. It looks like there's games scheduled on Sunday. So that's what you get today, Thursday, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You get 4 days off. Probably travel to Washington on Sunday night, I would say. Gotta ban Andrew? Why do I gotta ban Andrew? What did he say? What did he say? I think I've banned him before on TikTok, to be fair, but they haven't fully updated the playoff schedule yet. They have the games for Saturday. They have the Blues and Jets and the Avalanche and the Stars on Saturday on the NHL website. Um, as much as this might be cliche, I think special teams will be huge. We seem to be getting so many power plays and not capitalized. Yeah, I think again, I think that the power play needs to be better. Their penalty kill's been decent. Could always be better, of course, but you're right. I mean, if you've got your power play firing on all cylinders heading into the playoffs, that's an ideal situation. Trade Reinbacher, Hage Fowler. Yeah, I'm not down with that either, Morgan. I don't think it's I don't think it makes a lot of sense. If Habs get a 2C offer and so-called GM asks for one of our goalies, who do you trade, Fowler or Dobesh? I'm not trading either of those two guys right at the moment, Tristan. One, I don't think we can afford to lose. I mean, who's going to play goalie? I guess would be the question. So I don't think you trade either of those guys. But if if you're going to hold a gun to my head, I'd rather have Fowler than Dobesh. If we're going to pick up an elite, proven elite player, he won't be cheap. But again, why do we have to pick up a proven elite player? Why do we have to pick up a proven elite player, Andrew? That's the whole point. You don't have to pick up a proven elite player at this point of the rebuild. You don't. And if it's a free agent, then you don't have to trade anybody for him. So again, I don't buy your premise that they have to pick up a proven elite player. They don't have to get a proven elite player. They've just made the playoffs with their current roster, and obviously things will continue to improve next year, and there will be players. Like again, I don't like. This is a rebuild, Andrew. A rebuild means that you build from within, right? You develop your own players, and you grow from within your own organization, right? So the idea of heading into year 4 of the rebuild, that you're going out and either trading for elite players, and giving up on high level prospects. Again, it doesn't make sense in a rebuild. We're not going to talk about video game trades, Morgan, but I get you. Take accountability for being wrong about the Canadiens not making the playoffs. Many people who say hockey experts were wrong. Well, first of all, Sebastian, I never said they were not making the playoffs. I said they had an outside chance of making the playoffs at the beginning of the year. If you said that you expected them to make the playoffs at the beginning of the year, then that's fine. But like I said, that was not a reasonable expectation, right? So anybody who said at the beginning of this year that they expected the Canadiens to make the playoffs, again, you can pat yourself on the back because it actually happened. But again, I could say that I think that the moon is going to be made out of Swiss cheese tonight. And if it happens, it doesn't mean that, I'm some sort of genius because I predicted it. It just means that, I got kind of lucky. Yeah, don't trade prime prospects. I agree. Like you're not trading, you know, the Canadiens are not desperate to get a quote unquote elite player, right now. Like this is not what they need, right? It's not like if they were a team that, if they were a team like the Oilers or something that, went to the finals last year and lost, and they wanted to add a guy to put them over the top to, give them a sense of, guaranteeing them a championship, then maybe you trade one of those prospects in return for a guy who, you think can, put you over the top. But, at this stage of the rebuild, you're not abandoning your rebuild. That's the whole idea behind the rebuild. Like if you think that they're doing that, then you haven't really been listening to Kent Hughes, and what they're talking about. Yeah, like again, 76 points to 91, right? So they've improved their point total by 15, and I think they've improved their goal differential by 35 or something like that. So, um, but of all the prospects, who is most available? I think there's tiers of prospects, Morgan. I think there's tiers of prospects based on, um, what the Canadians view as a certain player's potential versus also the ones who they haven't necessarily had the opportunity to see at their best yet, right? Does that make sense? So I think obviously, you have guys like, Mayu and Roy and who else would be in that category? Mayu and Roy, guys who've had a chance at the NHL level and haven't quite been able to do it yet and have had a legitimate chance. Whereas, guys like, Beck and, Fowler and Hage and Reinbacher are guys who they still haven't yet had the opportunity to see what they can do with the proper opportunity at the NHL level. Right? So I think they're less likely to trade those guys than they are to trade, and that's not to say that Joshua Roy and Logan Mailloux can't someday be, impactful NHLers. I think they have a very strong opportunity to do that. But I think that they're, if you're putting your prospects into tiers, the guys who have had the opportunity and haven't grasped it right away, sort of fall into a lower tier than the ones who've never had the opportunity, or of course the ones who've had the opportunity and have taken advantage of it. Marner, Demidov, and whoever at center would be a great line. Of course it would be, but it's never going to happen. And if it did, the Canadiens would be very, very stupid for doing it. Right? Like not only do the Canadiens not want to be, engaged in that market at this stage of the rebuild, why would you want to bring in a guy who's going to make $12 or $13 million? It makes no sense. Is there any playoffs better than the NHL? I don't know. Probably not. I like baseball playoffs, but again, I think it just um, depends on your perspective. The Capitals don't got young, talented players such as the Canadiens. They've got some pretty young, talented players, Sebastian. They got some pretty good young players. They got Ryan Leonard. They got Is it Ilya Protas? There's two. There's Alexei Protas and Ilya Protas. One is in the NHL and one is on his way. But yeah. I don't disagree with this, actually, Morgan. I don't just disagree with Kirby Dach at 2C. I think, he'll obviously have to recover from this injury in time for training camp next year, but I think he's going to get an opportunity to keep that job. I think he's going to get the opportunity. Very, very happy with MSL. He was challenged this season with stubborn. Worst flaw, also his best quality. Sure, his players respectable. Yeah, I mean, you can't really speak negatively about Marty St. Louis. I mean, he's a fantastic coach, arguably one of the best in the league. I've got nothing but great things to say about him. Sorry, guys, I'm going to go through really quickly because we're running out of time here, guys. We've been going for almost 2 hours, and I got to go to bed. So I've been trolling Hab channels lately with 2C Kirby Dach. He entered contract and totally forgotten. I don't know if that's trolling, Morgan. I've been saying that all along. I mean, Kirby Dach's days in Montreal are not over. Obviously, he had a tough year this year, but Kirby Dach at his best would be an incredible second-line center for the Canadiens, right? If you get Kirby Dach from the end of 22-23, yeah. If you get that guy playing that way for an entire season, you're like that was a guy that they were talking about, taking over the number one center job from Nick Suzuki. So yeah, you don't know that, Andrew. See, that's the problem, right? You don't know that. Kirby Doc won't be more than a 3C, too many injuries, can't rely on him anymore. Well, again, obviously, if he's injured, he can't be a third line center anyway. But if he's healthy and he plays the way he's capable of, he's perfectly fine. He's a very talented player. Go Habs, go! Yes, Asim. Yes, they made it. They did, Billy D. They did. Marner was so good at Four Nations. Marner's a really good hockey player. McNichol, Protas, Leonard, absolutely. Dr. Candy Pants, 100%. I don't know how young Strome is anymore, but he's playing pretty well pretty well too. This is where he earned my respect. You're talking about Marner? Yes. Again, Andrew, for Kirby Doc, it's about whether he can return to his old form, right? Kirby Doc, it's there. It's just a matter of him being able to unlock it, right? It's not about anything else. I mean, if you watched him last year, I mean, a lot of it was mental. There were times where he looked very good last year or this year. I mean, but Washington does have Cole Hudson. Yes, Rodney. All right, Billy D. Thanks, man. Have a good sleep. Dream about playoffs. We are playing with house money on Doc. Yeah, to an extent. To an extent. And again, everybody forgets, right? Like everyone seems to think, oh, they have to go out and get this. Well, they made the playoffs this year with the way their lineup is currently constructed, right? So any improvement on that, whether it's at the 2C or whether it's anywhere else, is an advancement. It's or whether it's internal, whether it's a matter of, somebody getting better, like Slavkovsky. Like if Slavkovsky improves from this year to next year, then that's an improvement, right? So in that sense, you're right. It's house money. Gary Conway, welcome back. Doc needs an 82 game season next year. Yeah, I mean, ideally, absolutely. Absolutely. Doc is, that would be perfect. But again, the thing with Doc is he's got a ton of talent. And like I said, there have been points in his career where he's demonstrated that he can really do it. But there's also points in his career where he's looked really bad. So, yes, I agree. I love Doc. Just feel he will be held back by injuries, but I could be in left field. Well, you're not in left field, but I mean, at the end of the day, anybody could be held back by injuries, right? Like, right? Like, anybody could get injured. Like the Canadiens 3 years ago, and the year before that, I think 2 years in a row, broke the record for the most man games lost to injury, right? So that could happen to anybody. Again, the term injury prone is something that I don't love because, yeah, there's guys who have a lot of injuries, but what makes you injury prone, right? Like, is somebody more prone to be injured than somebody else? Like, if I break my leg one year and then I, break my arm the next year, does it mean I'm injury prone? Like, what does it mean? Does it mean that I'm more likely to get injured a third time? Like, I'm not, What's up, Hayden? Yes, go Habs, go. Do I think there's a possibility Demidov could steal Slav's spot on the top line? I know it's way too early, but but he has a high ceiling. Well, they both do. They both do, Andrew. So you're asking me if there's a possibility? Absolutely. Right? I think, I mean, anything's possible. Going into camp next year, you're going to see Marty St. Louis experiment with a lot of things. I think you're going to see Demidov, if he's able to and he's, proves himself, he's going to get a chance to do that. But again, it's going to be a competition. I don't think it's going to so much be, you know, Demidov stealing Slavkovsky's spot. It's going to be the team deciding that their best opportunity to win is with Demidov in a certain position and Slavkovsky in a certain position, right? It's not going to be him stealing a spot. It's, like every year there's going to be, a training camp and there's going to be competition for positions. Habs will now go with tangibles. Whoever gets a spot will get it. Will need to get it. Yeah, I agree with that, PLW. They're gonna. That's not to say they're not going to bring somebody in. I think they could make a trade or they could sign a free agent. I just don't think that they're going to be out there desperately looking for somebody, on the basis that they have to have a new guy or they have to add an elite talent between now and the beginning of next season. I don't think that's, I don't think that that's the case, and I don't think that's the way they're thinking. How underrated is Caden Gooley? I would say he's quite underrated. I think he's got a ton of talent. I think he's continuing to improve. One of the things I always look, there's a lot of guys on the Montreal Canadiens who have a really high trajectory and the potential and their ability to improve. Like Arbor Jacki, that's to me one of the greatest things about Arbor Jacki is that he's gone from being a guy who barely could make it into the OHL to a guy who, in my opinion, is a very serviceable third pairing defenseman in the NHL over the course of 5 years, right? Maybe 6 years. And he just continues to get better and better and better, which is why I really, really have a hard time with him sitting in the press box so much, because I feel like that's kind of stunting his growth a little bit. But Caden Gooley, again, I think his ceiling is crazy high. I think he'll continue to get better. I think his offense, now that he's getting more comfortable with the defensive side of the game, I think you'll see his offense pick up a little bit as well. Obviously, we saw a little bit of that tonight. So. Good night, Habs fan. Chat with you all Monday. No more ole ole. Rodney thinks the ole ole song is bad luck. But again, when it comes to Gooley's contract, I mean, I think, right, like I think people underestimate the degree to which players consider more than just money when it comes to their contract. I know that might sound naive, but I think it's true. I mean, I know it's true, right? Like players will sign for less if they're in a spot or in a position or in a situation that they're really comfortable with, whether it's because of their family, whether it's because of the team, whether it's because of the coaches, whether it's because of anything, any number of things. That's not to say that they're going to, take half or two, or even $1 million less. But there are guys who will take or sign for longer because of things like that. I think Gooley has the ability to be, I don't know about the same level as, but the same type of defenseman as a guy like Shea Weber. I don't necessarily think he'll bring as much offense as a Shea Weber was able to at times in his career, but I think he could be I don't want to call him a poor man's Shea Weber because I don't think that's very complimentary, but I think he could be a guy who, just that rugged kind of, obviously his injuries are tough, but yeah, I like him a lot. Yeah. Yeah, again, I don't know if that's the greatest comparison, Shea Weber. I don't know if that's the greatest comparison, but I see him sort of in that style or in that same vein. Maybe not I mean, Shea Weber's a Hall of Famer, right? So, I mean, putting that kind of expectation on a kid who's that young is kind of tough, but, you know, that same kind of idea, that same kind of player, right? That farm boy kind of, but again, the injuries for him this early in his career is kind of tough as well, but that's kind of Shea Weber too. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, I think I got to shut her down there, guys. I think I finally got through all the questions. There's still 15 of you watching, and I do appreciate that. If you're not subscribed yet, guys, please do so. On n'a pas eu l'opportunité de parler en français ce soir encore, mais c'est une émission bilingue ici. Alors, si vous avez des questions en français dans le futur, vous pouvez nous demander, et on va vous répondre en français. Thank you very much, guys, for coming by. I appreciate all of you for your contributions, for your questions, your comments, everything. If you're not subscribed yet, I see there's 18 people in the room at the moment. I do appreciate that, and I do really hate to end the show with that many people still watching, but it is almost 1 o'clock in the morning here. We have been on the air for over 2 hours. Well, not quite 2 hours. So that would be, it would be awesome if you're not subscribed to do so. The button down here, I think allows you to subscribe. I think it's down here somewhere. Hit the notification bell. Give us a thumbs up if you are enjoying the show. If you're watching later on in a replay, I know not everybody can stay up this late to watch something like this on YouTube after a game, but we certainly, welcome you watching in a replay. If you have questions, feel free to send them my way. I'll answer them either in the next show or, in the comment section itself. But again, we're trying to get more subscribers. We're trying to get more people to join. We're trying to get to grow a community here where we can come and talk about the Canadiens. If obviously now we're going to get to talk about playoff Canadiens, right? So maybe we'll see some more fun stuff. Now that the playoffs are here. Obviously, the next time we're on the air with Habs After Dark will be after a playoff game. So nobody other than Sebastien expected that we would be able to do that. Yeah. Asim, I came late, but amazing show. I appreciate that, Asim. You did mention that you are big on Gouli. I am as well, Morgan. I think he's got big things ahead of him if he can stay healthy. Go Habs, go! Canadiens take game 1. That's your prediction, Sebastien. I love it. Bonne soirée, Devin. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, Wesh Wesh. Thank you, Morgan. I've become your 8th favorite Habs channel. Well, I appreciate that, Morgan. Hopefully I can work my way up the ladder and maybe work my way up to 7th or even 6th someday. So that's awesome. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for everybody for coming by. Thank you for your contributions. It started out a little bit slow tonight, but things got rolling there after a little while. I appreciate everybody again. Thanks so much. If you're not subscribed, please do so. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button yet, please do so if you do enjoy the content. And we'll see you in the next one. Again, Montreal Canadiens are in the playoffs. Canadiens 4, Hurricanes 2. The Canadiens, did it themselves. They didn't wait for tomorrow. They didn't wait for Columbus to see what Columbus would do in tomorrow's game. They did it themselves. They're in the playoffs. They've qualified. There you go. Happy to see it. And we will, I believe it will be Monday when we'll see playoff hockey. And I can't wait to talk to you guys after the game. So thank you so much. Thank you, Wesh Wesh. Thank you, PLW. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
To Hoffman, Monahan parked in front, docks to Caulfield, fires, scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.
3, 2, 1.